Hello. Yeah. Great. So sorry about that lapse. Okay, great. So hopefully all of you can hear me now. Sorry about that lapse. Little bit of a technology run, reliving the COVID days. But so here we go. We're going to talk about a very important topic today about investing in knowledge, unraveling US education financing. It's going to be, we have two wonderful panelists with us who I will introduce very shortly. So this is a part of our larger application camp series. Last week, you learned about strategies for finding your right fit university. And this week, we are going to talk about financing this very important education that you are aspiring for. So just a few housekeeping rules that please do type in your name, introduce yourself, tell us which city you are from so that we know who we are speaking to. Use headphones for enhanced audio quality, although you saw mine just fail right now. Please mute your microphones. At the end of the session, we will take in chat questions. So do type in your questions on chat and address them to everyone and not just the panelists. So we will be reading out and addressing those questions. Now, we do reserve the right to dismiss participants if you're being inappropriate, and do check the resources in the comments box at the end of the session to save them for later. So just a little bit about Education USA before we begin this session. We are supported by the US Department of State in Washington, DC. Our mandate is to provide you with accurate, comprehensive, and current information, and our official advising centers are actually present in 430 centers in 107 cities worldwide. In India, we have 7 cities that we are present in, and 8 centers with 4 host institutions. So these are the cities that you can see on your screen that we are present in. We are live from the Kolkata Center today, but we have sessions from all the centers throughout this series. So just quickly how you're going to kind of apply for US education, and we are going to go through these steps in the application camp, is you have to research your options. The second step is financing your education, which we are going to talk about today. The third step is completing your application or getting all the components together. And some very important steps is after that, after getting admission, you have to apply for your student visa and also prepare for departure. So globally, Education USA is helping students in all of these steps, and you can come to us for any resources on the same. These are just a few of our services. Feel free to take a screenshot, download these calendar of events, follow us on social media to get the best updates on US higher education. And we have an Ask an Advisor session every day with virtual office hours with an advisor from around India. We have a mobile app that you can download. It's called Education USA India to get push notifications on all our events. And we also have our 24/7 advisor, that's YouTube, that we are coming to you live today on. So we are going to have these sessions recorded that you can watch later. We do have an upcoming US University Fair, which is going to happen from the end of August to the beginning of September. They are going to come, many US universities are going to come in person after many years to meet all of you in different cities. So do avail of this free opportunity to get, like your shortlist verified and also talk to many university officials. So without further ado, let's jump into this session and hand it over to our wonderful panelists. So the first panelist today here with us is Ms. Anjali Anand Se. She is the Associate Vice President and International Admissions and Strategic Advisor to the President at Wesleyan College, Georgia. So welcome, Anjali. Thank you for accepting our invitation to this panel. And our second panelist here is Ms. Pallavi Sharma. She is the Regional Advisor of South Asia at the DePaul University, which is in Illinois. So both of them are wonderful spokespeople for this very important topic. And I will request them to, take you through this, and they will be here to answer questions in the last half an hour. So feel free to keep typing in your questions in the chat box as well as on the YouTube chat section, and we will read it out to them in the end. So over to you. Let's first hear from Anjali.
Thank you so much, and good morning from Canada. And I'm sure you all are very excited about learning about how to finance your education. And of course, it's a very important session today, because when we are trying to choose institutions, I think the first thing that comes to our mind is what exactly is the tuition fee, what exactly are the expenses going to be, and that becomes a very important factor in us choosing, the topic that we are, choosing the university or college that we are finally going to go to. So, Unnati, if you could move to the next slide, please. Okay, I don't know where Unnati is.
Hi, can you see the next
anyway, let's talk about USA particularly. Unnati, if you can hear me, can you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. All right. Why USA? I think the first thing that comes to mind is often which country do I want to go to? And out here, USA obviously tops the chart, primarily because of it being the largest educational system globally. So it has over 4,000 institutions, private, public, and of course, I will go tell you about what different kind of institutions are there. But primarily also because it has a lot of cultural diversity. And some of the data that I picked up from official websites is that international students are representing about 6% of the total US higher education enrollment. And this is growing. So after COVID, and of course, the latest report says that from last year, this year, we have again gone up. The reason for that could be that, of course, there is the quality of education and the fact that your education is valued and recognized throughout the world, but it also has a very high level of research. So everybody who wants to get into grad studies or maybe PhD later, it is also offered at an undergrad level. For those who are very, they want to know about rankings, well, the QS ranking says that out of the top 10 universities in the world, 8 of them are located in the US. It goes beyond that. I think what is important, and since we are talking about finance, I think the fact that scholarships and financial aid is available to a lot of students, and the Institute of International Education says that more than 50% of international students in the US are receiving some form of financial aid or scholarship, which of course becomes one big factor for us choosing an institutions. Beyond that, yes, after you finish your education, there are opportunities to work. And the National Association of Colleges and Employers says that the hourly wage of an intern in the US is about $20. And believe me, it is one of the highest in the world. The institutions that are there, the 4,000 plus institutions that we're talking about, of course, also cater to your budget. So it ranges anything between $40,000 to about 90,000 and sometimes even higher, depending on which institution you choose. So it's not like just because, I'm planning to go study abroad, I cannot afford the education. A lot is often spoken about the return on investment. Like parents always ask, will my child get a job after they graduate? What is it going to be? So the return of investment is, of course, faster and easier. And the US Bureau of Labor Statistics says that the weekly earning of someone with bachelor's degree in the US is about $1,300 per week. But most importantly, and now I know at present, students are already into getting their interviews, I think the visa process is fairly simple. Reason being because paying the tuition fees is not mandatory. And sometimes that could be like a big cost. So you could just do the admission deposit as long as you're able to show the visa officer that, yes, you can afford the education. You do not need to make some of those tuition payments upfront, which is the case in a lot of other countries. Moving on, what exactly are we talking about? Next slide, please. What exactly are we talking about in terms of the education system? So while we do have a lot of institutions, when you're choosing your institution, there are primarily 2 types of institutions that you will see. One are community colleges or polytechnics. These are ones which are focused on offering you pathway programs. They are 2-year courses. 2 years courses could be a diploma, it could be an associate degrees. And generally, these are low cost. Foothills De Anza is one of these, institutions, community colleges that we talk about, and I'm sure you can connect with my colleagues there. The colleges and universities are often both private and public. They offer 4-year degrees, and this is where the range is very wide. So you need to, when you're looking at an institutions, and of course, all institutions in the US are great institutions offering you very good quality, high quality education. This is where the money factor comes in, wherein you are going to be looking into as to how much do you wish to spend on your education, whether undergrad or postgrad. Moving to the next slide, please. Now, often, and there is a reason why tuition fee is in bold than the rest of them. And often when we consider an institution, and this is something that I've always told parents, please look beyond just the tuition fees, because that is not what is your actual cost of attendance. You say, oh, 40,000, of course I can afford that. But what you're not looking at is the additional cost to attending. So the real cost of attendance is not just the tuition fee. It includes on the screen, if you can see the left side, the 7 things that I've included, includes your residence also. So whether you're living on campus or off campus, your room, your board, meal plans, everything becomes part of the expense that you're going to incur. Then there is health insurance, which is mandatory for international students and of course is required for domestic students too. But health insurance could also add, because it is mandatory, it adds to your cost. Miscellaneous, books and supplies, late fee, a whole lot of other things that are, or maybe you're missing a credit and you want to register for another course. Every course will add to your cost. Then the travel cost. Local travel cost, of course, maybe you're living too far away from the university. So every day that you either have to, take the local transport or an Uber.
So it seems like Anjali is frozen. I just try to get in touch with her. So seems like Anjali has left the meeting. I think she will try to rejoin. So just give us a few minutes. Sorry about the technical glitch. Hepsi and Siddiq, keep an eye out if Anjali joins. Let me know, please. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Great. So until Anjali joins, perhaps I can, try to fill in this slide a little bit. So basically, like she was explaining, the cost of attendance goes much beyond just the tuition and fee, which is a very minuscule part of the entire thing. I think she is coming back on camera.
She's here, Unnati.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I got cut off, but I'm sorry. Okay. Thanks, Sunnati, for continuing with that. My apologies. So yes, of course, we were talking about the social expenses too. But what are the sources of funding that you're looking at? Now, when you're looking at tuition fees, like I mentioned before, community colleges will be costing less. But you're looking at a 4-year degree, you have to take into account your 4-year expenses. The biggest source of funding here, of course, is the scholarships that you will receive. And colleges and universities across US offer scholarships, but you have to know when to apply and apply early for those scholarships. Of course, your actual cost of attendance will be the tuition fees minus the scholarship that you receive, or the financial aid or grant that you receive. Often, most universities will offer you need-based financial aid. My institution offers international student one-time grant of $5,000 over and above the scholarship that you will receive. But I'm maybe I'm wrong, and my colleagues here can correct me, but I have seen very rarely that financial aid being need blind there. But there are few institutions which could offer. Big part of it is, of course, sponsoring your education. Your parents will become your primary sponsors. But there is also the education loans. Now, a lot of banks give education loans. And when we talk about my institution, we recently, Wesleyan College, Georgia, recently got into a partnership with ICICI Bank. And what they have, the MOU that we signed is that all students coming to Wesleyan will be eligible for a non-collateral loan of up to 1 crore rupees. That is $10 million, and with collateral up to $20 million, which is about 2 crore of rupees. So this is, of course, the bank will also look at your repaying capacity. Ironically, loans are not given to people who cannot repay. So bank will also look at your repaying capacity, and this is where the ITR and the other documentation starts coming in. A lot of students are also looking at on and off campus jobs. There are institutions which offer that. For those going in for an undergrad program, I would advise you do not look for it in your first semester or sometimes even in your first year, because even to get those on and off campus jobs, you do need to have some kind of, learning at the university and the college first before you actually get those jobs. And these jobs could be minuscule. Sometimes, probably doing minor work in the library otherwise. But if you're looking at jobs like being research assistant or something, those do not come in the first year itself. So be mindful of that. Internships, of course, includes the same thing. You could work as a resident assistant, research assistant, or teacher's assistant, etc. There are certain external sources wherein agencies and foundations fund the education of a student. But these, again, primarily are for those with marginalized backgrounds. These are, say, Carter Foundation does a lot of this funding for students, but these are students coming from marginalized sections of society. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Okay. Now, what are these types of scholarships? For the paucity of time, I will not get into the detail unless there's a question comes in, and I know Pallavi also can give her bit there. There is a scholarship, FAFSA, but it is not for international students. So we've already spoken about need-based, which means you have to give reasons as to why you should be considered for that scholarship, but it is not guaranteed just because you applied for it. So there is a whole lot of essay that you will have to write as to why the university or the college should consider you for these. Please note that because the cost of attendance is very low at community colleges would probably not consider you for scholarships, and definitely not for financial aid, because the education itself is not too expensive. Need blind, of course. There are institutions which do partial tuition fee waivers. My institution does that. Primarily, scholarships are given on merit-based, and this could be a holistic profile wherein they're looking at your academic scores. So those become very important, because the first rule of them considering your application is your academic scores. And it could also be with your co-curricular profile. And here is where sports scholarships, so those who are very active sports persons, sports scholarship comes in. There are a few institutions who will also offer you a full ride scholarship, which means they cover your entire tuition fees and residence. So do look out for that, and do connect with Education USA to ask which are these institutions which are offering you full ride scholarships. I have listed a few scholarships that are offered by institutions, but truthfully speaking, most of them are for grad students rather than for undergrad students. You are most welcome to take a screenshot of it and probably go online and check these links if you are looking at a master's or a PhD degree in the US. Next one, please. So what exactly do we offer? Okay. Wesleyan College is located in city of Macon. In 2023, one of the magazines listed it as a city to visit in 2023. For our undergrad programs, we are primarily women's institution, and we are the oldest institution in the world to grant degrees to women. So we were established in 1836. Our ethos is primarily accelerating equality for women. And I often say this is that till you're in school, your everything is at the same platform. Everything is the same. It's only once you step out of the safe comfort of your home as well as your school that you realize that there are a lot of trials and tribulations that come, which are gender specific. So we're not going to talk about feminism here, but there are areas wherein you will find yourself struggling. So when we say that we are accelerating equality for women, there are a couple of things that we have done at the institutions. Our programs are designed to cater to the skills that you will require to be successful in the real world. So we have what is called a CEO Institute. It's called Creating Equal Opportunities Institute, where students have their own board of advisors to teach them the skills to survive in the job market once they're out of the institutions. But that for later, since we're talking about finances, you cannot accelerate equality if you do not have accessibility to the education that one provides, which is why Wesleyan instituted a lot of scholarships for international students. We do offer full ride scholarships, but this is primarily need-based, which means you will have to share why you should be considered for the scholarship because you cannot afford the education. And we offer 4 of these to girls just from India. So please go ahead and connect with me later. It covers not just your tuition and your residence fee. It also provides you with one-way ticket to the US when you're coming into fall, and of course, a guaranteed on-campus paid job. So 20 hours per week that you can work, it is guaranteed because we do want you to have money to come back again to meet your parents at least a year. We also have the second 2 premier scholarships that we offer are the CEO Women in Leadership Scholarship. It is about $100,000 over 4 years and practically covers 90% of your tuition fee. And how is that? We are probably the only institution in the world where our domestic and international fee is the same. We do not charge international students higher. The only difference between an international student and a domestic student is the international fee that you pay, which covers some of your miscellaneous as well as your health insurance. And that is also about $8,500. So really, it is not too much. But this covers about 90% of your tuition fees because our tuition fees is about $26,450 per year. And because it is $25,000 per year, it covers a lot of your tuition fees. Global Leader Scholarship is again about $80,000, which means $20,000 per year. But every student who applies to Wesleyan will be considered for International Entrance Award. I am yet to come across any student that I've admitted and I've not considered them for an international scholarship. And this International Entrance Award is renewable, which means as long as you keep your grades up, we will continue giving it to you every year. And this is up to a maximum of $15,000 per year, primarily based on your grades and your co-curricular activity. As the Associate Vice President of International Admissions, I also have I can grant financial aid over and above your International Entrance Award if you do apply for it. So what it really means is unless you are already receiving the highest amount of $100,000, I can grant a one-time grant, make a one-time grant of $5,000 over and above your International Entrance Award. What exactly are the requirements to receive these scholarships? Of course, you need to make an application. We begin our application from August 1. You can make a common app or you make a direct application, and we do not have any application fees also. But your grades need to be, while the admission requirement to make an application is an 82%, I require you to have at least an 85% or above for you to be considered for scholarship. Of course, a broad-based co-curricular profile. Those who are looking at applying for the premier scholarships of Global Leader and the CEO, we do require you to write essays. LOR is also important. You need to submit 2 LORs for that. And for those looking into Global Leader and CEO Women and Full Ride, there is a video interview also. In the age of Chat GPT, I do want to have an in-person interaction and not just look at your essays. So that's about from me. If there are any questions, I will be happy to answer at the end of it. And now I pass it on to Pallavi. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Anjali, and that was a very comprehensive overview of the bachelor's, application for scholarships. And now I would like to invite Pallavi to talk about the graduate, part of it, which is the master's and PhD funding available in US universities. Over to you, Pallavi. Thank you.
Thank you, Unnati. And thank you, Anjali. It was a wonderful presentation. Well, good evening, everyone, and good morning if people are joining from the other side of the world. My name is Pallavi, as you know by now. I represent DePaul University. We're located in Chicago, which is the 3rd largest city in the US, and we are a very old private university. I would talk about the offerings and the opportunities at the university in my slides from here on, but let's just quickly hop on to the topic of the day, which is my favorite topic as well, because I know as an international student, it really is important for the students to know what opportunities are there in the US. So Unnati, can we just move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. All right, much of it is covered by Anjali already, but I just wanted to stress upon that the same kind of financial consideration should be kept in mind when you're planning for a grad studies in the US. There are a couple of late fee and surcharges that you could actually consider when you're planning your studies in the US, apart from what is already talked about. So the tuition fee really remains really becomes the most important part of the financials when you're studying in the US. And we'll definitely talk about the 2 questions that I normally get when I speak to the students is, one is, how should I calculate my tuition fee? Because more or less, unlike the undergrads, students' graduate tuition fee is never straightforward. And there is a reason to it, and we will definitely discuss all of this in a while. And the second question is how many credits and how long is the program? What is the duration of the program? There is always kind of debate or questions when it comes to the duration of the program. So I'll explain all of that before I really get on to the scholarships and the financial aids in the US. Can we move on to the next one, Unnati, please? Thank you. The 3 most common terms that we hear when we are talking about the graduate education in particular is program, courses, and credit hour. I know this can be confusing for every student initially, but believe me, if you dig down and go to the university's website, this is quite an easy one to crack. So the program is a combination of courses, and the courses are allocated some credit hours. I'll give you an example that at DePaul University, our courses, for example, in the computer science program are 4 credits each. So you're going to study 4 credits in one course, and it's a term-based university. So we are actually a quarter-based university. We have 4 quarters in the year, and you can complete 2 courses, which means 8 credits in a term minimum. Now, just on the example which is on your screen, if you want to calculate the overall fee, because most of the times what we give you is the estimated fee, and that's where the confusion begins. So one credit costs $900 for our computer science program at DePaul University. And the program is 48 credits or 12 courses. So the total tuition fee for the entire program would be $43,200. That's how simple it is. However, when it comes to the planning for the year or the 2 years, because the program usually extends to 2 years. However, if you want to complete the program earlier than usual, then you need to add on more courses each term, which means that if you're normally doing 2 courses in a term, then you can really complete the program in 2 years. But if you want to add on additional courses in a term, that will definitely increase your course fee for that term, and of course, shorten the program duration. So this is how the courses and the fee are structured in any US education system. More or less, this is a very flexible system wherein you are in charge of what you want to study and when you want to study. The US institutions provide a lot of advising, which is called as career advising, which you may already know, that can help you with which courses to choose in which term based on your ability academically. So this is how the fee can be calculated, but the yearly fee that is given to you is always estimated. Unnati, can we please move on to the next one? Thank you. So the most common sources of funding for all the international students is listed here. The first one is the parents and the sponsors from the family. So this is a common question. Can someone from my family sponsor me? Well, the answer is yes, they can. There are some external sources of funding like the government scholarships, which Anjali briefly touched upon, and the foundations and the agencies which are providing these kind of scholarships to the students as well. There is a huge amount of financial aid that is provided by the US universities. And Anjali have already talked about a lot of undergrad scholarships and the financial aids, which are the need-based and the merit-based scholarships. Well, there are much more for the grad students here. There are on-campus jobs, there are assistantships, which includes teaching assistants and the research assistants. Well, one caution that you should definitely take when you're talking to a university representatives like myself is to ask these questions. When can you start these jobs? So on-campus jobs at DePaul universities can be started from the day one. However, for the assistantships, you have to complete minimum 2 terms at DePaul University. So this may vary. Ask these questions to your advisor, and I guess you will have the right answer, and you can then plan your studies alongside. There are internships opportunities provided by the university's career services team. Most of the US institutions have the career services department, which can help you with the profile building and helping you with the internship opportunities. Some of the companies are already lined up with the university and in their panel. However, if you are open to some other choices, you can definitely connect with the career services team. So internships can be paid or unpaid. It depends. In Chicago, I know a lot of students doing the paid internships as well. Then there are athletic scholarships, and that's my favorite scholarship as well, because I've been a sports person in the past, and I unfortunately did not have a chance to get these kind of scholarships. But good for you that you have these scholarships available in the US, and definitely I think Unnati has a wonderful link that she shared with me earlier. If anybody needs, probably she can share with you all. Then there are education loans which are provided. Here we need to be a little careful because there are a lot of terms and conditions that you may have to go through. There are some resources that I'm going to talk about in the following slides that can help you with those education loans. Well, DePaul University has an alignment with the Empower financing as well. Unnati, can we move, please? Thank you. Now, scholarships and fellowships are in demand. And of course, that's the first question that the international students normally ask when they explore a university to study and on to do their program. So the merit-based scholarships are mostly common in the US. These are dependent on the grades or the profile. Now, profile could include your extracurriculars as well, which is actually more impactful in the undergrad side. For the grads, we look at more co-curriculars, and just to spot the difference between the two, if they are related to your program of study, then they would be considered as co-curriculars. Now, the test scores can also be one of the qualifiers for the merit-based scholarships in a few schools. And I'm just talking in general because right now we are talking about the US education in general, but at DePaul University, we do look at the entire profile or the holistic view of your profile. However, the grades are still the main focus for our review when we look at the merit-based scholarship. The need-based scholarships are rare in nature in the US. Anjali has already spoken about the need-aware and the need-blind. Well, just to touch upon this need-blind and need-aware terminology, well, need-blind colleges will make a decision without considering your ability to pay. That means they may not be able to match up to your expectation. And that is why, as Anjali rightly mentioned, there could be very few institutions. The need-aware colleges or institutions are the ones which will make the decision based on the need that you will define, or your ability to pay would be taken into account. So those are huge, and I think Anjali has already detailed out the kind of scholarships they offer. We do not offer the need-based scholarships to the international students. However, we do give good scholarships on the merit-based stage of your academics. Then there are athletic scholarships. Through the NCAA Division I, we are the NCAA Division I school, and we do have some, cases to share with you where the students have actually taken the full ride, combining the athletic and the academic scholarship on the undergrad side. However, the grad students need to be very careful here because they can only opt for one scholarship. Plus, the athletic scholarships for the grads are very rare in nature. So do ask these questions if you are, if you have those credentials and you feel that you can be eligible for the athletic scholarships. Well, there are cases where the students have studied masters at the US institutions on the athletic scholarship as well, which can be up to full housing or a few tuition waivers. But in my knowledge, there are very few cases where I've heard about the full rides here at the master's levels, at least. Then there are transfer scholarships. Well, Anjali discussed about the community colleges wherein you can study 2 years at the community colleges and take the associate degree, and then you can transfer to any of the degree provider institutions like DePaul University. We do accept transfer students from wonderful community colleges that we have. It is definitely one of the good pathways to consider, especially if you're not able to make it to your dream college in the first go. Well, the good news is that the transfer scholarships are also available for the students if they want to do that on the undergrad side at DePaul University. For grads, this would not apply because grads do not have transfers or the associate or the community college route, because we are a we are offering a 2 year degree program any which ways. But if you are transferring from one of our partners to do the grad program at DePaul University, we do consider the transfer scholarships a little bit. Then there are graduate financial aid programs like Fulbright Scholarship. I think Education USA team is the best resource to give you those details as well. However, if you need any information, I'll be happy to answer those questions here as well. Unnati, can we move on to the next one, please? Thank you. Well, there are some external scholarships also available for the grads specifically. I've listed down a few because the screen size did not allow me to, but believe me, there are many, many more options that are available. I've given a good resource that you can refer on my slide. If you want, you can just take the screenshot. If you want me to put the link on the chat box, I can request one of my colleagues to do that as well. But this is a good resource that you can use to see what all scholarships are available and what are the qualifying criteria for these scholarships. When I read about these scholarships, I really felt that these are wonderful scholarships and the students must make use of it. Unnati, can you move, please? Thank you.
Thanks. Just one quick place to jump in, just for students to also, since Pallavi mentioned that USIF also does the Fulbright scholarships, a lot of these fellowships programs are for senior faculty members or, researchers or PhD students.
PhD, yes.
Already doing those programs in India or are, working professionals, then you can consider them. But these are directly not for students, like both Pallavi and Anjali mentioned. The master scholarship is the only one that working professionals qualify for under Fulbright. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Unnati. Thanks for adding in that point. Yes, I was considering that we have PhD students as well listening to this conversation. Let's just quickly talk about what we offer at DePaul University. This is for the undergrad students. We offer the incoming freshman scholarships, the transfer scholarships that I mentioned. We also offer a current and continuing student scholarships because we do offer an integrated program at DePaul University. Then there are specific to graduate student scholarships, which are external or internal, and I will talk about internal in a while. Then we are also offering the alumni scholarship, and that's where DePaul holds a great space because DePaul has a very strong alumni network, which we kind of use for multiple purposes, but one of which is alumni scholarships as well. So our alumni are great and they really help the institution a lot. Being a private institution, this is one of the edge that we definitely have. There's a very unique scholarship that we offer called Double Demon Scholarship. Demon is our mascot for the sports teams. That is available for the combined degree program holders and those who earn the bachelor's degree at DePaul. So if you want to continue your education from bachelor's to master's at DePaul, we do offer these scholarships to the students. Unnati, can we move, please? Thank you. Thank you. For the grad students specifically, we offer a lot of opportunities like on-campus jobs, which can be 20 hours a week. That could be in the library, could be international offices. Like myself, I have a lot of international students working in my office, supporting us with the admissions and the processing part as well, and a lot of other jobs that they do for us, and they've been great. Then there are sports divisions wherein the students are required to help probably manage the team a little bit or prepare some documentation or just assisting the coach in maybe, managing the space or helping them with some of the programs that they want to create. Then we have about 10 colleges at DePaul, and all the grad units also recruit the on-campus job students. They do have some of the small jobs which can be done by the students, just like us in the admissions processing, or just compiling the application together when you apply to the institutions like DePaul, or maybe just following up with you. So you may hear a lot from our students when you apply to DePaul University in following up with the documentation and if there is anything missing. Then there are graduate assistance that is provided by DePaul University as well. And that can be, sorry, Anita, can you go back? Thank you. So our graduate assistantships would include the waiver of up to 3 classes per quarter, which also would have a stipend of $1,500 per quarter. That's kind of not like given completely, but it is the possibility that the students may get this kind of stipend based on what kind of job they're doing at DePaul University. So we have 2 options, the research assistance. One thing I would like to mention here that DePaul University is not a research university as such. However, we do take part in a lot of research areas. Our faculty members are actively working with the live researches that are happening in the US. So yes, we do require the research assistance, however few at DePaul University, wherein you might be just working on collecting the data or preparing some material for the faculties or the researchers, or maybe just posting the grades online. Various kind of work can be done under this category. The other most popular one is the teaching assistance. I think we can move to the next one. Thank you. Well, one thing I would like to mention here is that DePaul is the largest private teaching university in the US. So 98% of our classes are taught by the faculty directly, but we still have some teaching assistance positions wherein the assistants or the students who are working under the faculty would be helping in tutoring, especially the introductory programs that we offer at the Computing and Digital Media School to the students. Those will be taken care of by the teaching assistants that we have on board, or grading or posting the lab assignments that you do as a student, or maybe just supervising the lab sessions in general. So those are done by the students who are working as teaching assistants at DePaul University. We can move. Thank you. All right, so these are some of the additional scholarship and awards that have been offered at DePaul. Undergrad side, we do offer the merit-based scholarships that would cover the 60% of the tuition cost. And we also offer a renewable scholarship, which means that the overall, you need to maintain the grades every year, and that's about it. And we also offer some EDGE rewards. In the past, we have offered it to the top 10 students from the early application pool. We are still consolidating our future term as to what we are going to do in future, because we are in process of re-looking at the scholarships. But in the past, we have given EDGE awards to the students as well. And at the undergrad side, as I mentioned in my previous slides, we have students who have availed the full ride, combining the athletic and academic scholarships. Because we are a Division I school, we do have a lot of sports that are played and, quite popular in the region as well. So students who have great credentials in sports at the undergrad sides, I think it's a national and above is what we require in general. And definitely happy to provide more information if anybody is interested in knowing that. But you can definitely go for the full ride if you are that student. At the grad side, I would just mention about the 2 top scholarships that we offer. The Cal State Graduate School of Business, which is one of our most popular business school in the US, is offering a scholarship ranging from 6,000 to 7,800. That's the maximum that we offer. Now, of course, being a private university, we receive a lot of funding every year. This year, we received some additional funding, so we were happy to give it away to our students, and we always extend that to our students. So yes, there can be a midway changes at DePaul University as well, but it won't go down the 6,000 and the $7,800 for 6 terms. Now, the difference for the grads and undergrads would be that all the grad scholarships that are provided at DePaul are spread over the 6 terms. So yes, if you're taking a $6,000 scholarship, or you're awarded a $6,000 scholarship, you will be getting $1,000 every term. The Jarvis College of Computing and Digital Media, which is popularly known as CDM School at DePaul, offers you maximum scholarship of $6,000 for specific programs. Those are listed on your screens. And the on-campus jobs, as I mentioned, can be started from the day one. So yes, if you combine your scholarships and the on-campus jobs or the assistantship positions, you definitely have a good package created for yourself. So I believe we were able to bust some myths that US education is expensive. At the same time, it's very rewarding as well. Unnati, could you please move to the next slide, please? All right, so these are some of the external funding opportunities at DePaul University. Well, one of the terms that you will hear a lot on the cosigner and no sign, that is what you need to consider when you're looking at these external funding opportunities. At DePaul, we offer all these external funding with the conditions apply. I've given the link here just in case you want to go and explore and look at the details of what is required to be eligible and what is the process to apply for these funding. You can definitely have a look. Unnati, would you please copy this link and post it for our students? Thank you. Let's move to the next slide, please. Right, thank you. I think we've had a wonderful session, at least, informative, and I've learned a lot about the Wesleyan College as well today. So thank you, Anjali, for doing that. Over to you, Unnati.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Pallavi and Anjali and Unnati, for your wonderful presentation. So I'm Itihas Singh. I'm an EducationUSA advisor as well. So we'll do a Q&A for half an hour, and I'll be moderating that like a panel. So we can just get straight into it. I want to answer a couple of things that students brought up. A lot of them were saying, can you share the slides? So this is being live streamed on YouTube, so you can go to YouTube and rewatch the session and get this information again. Also, a number of students were talking about very specific cases, that this is my background, can I get admission, and things like that. So for that, I would recommend going to one of our offices. We'll just put up a slide of all our offices, EducationUSA. You can get free guidance from our offices, whichever is closest to you, on very specific cases. So the questions we'll entertain are would be more general, that will be relevant for everyone. So let's get into that. So the first question is, when is the correct time to apply for scholarships for undergrad? And can I do something to improve my chances of getting the scholarship while I'm still in high school? So perhaps, Pallavi, you want to tackle that?
Sure. Thank you, Itihas, and lovely meeting you. I'm meeting you for the first time here. All right. So I think I can talk about DePaul University. We do not require you to apply for these scholarships separately. And thank you for that question. It is a very important question to ask. We do not require you to apply for the scholarship separately. You just need to make an application for your academic program. When we evaluate your profile, we can give you decision of your admission. And alongside, we let you know about the scholarship as well. I'm sorry, Itihas, I missed the second part. Could you please say that again?
Right. Some students were saying they're in class 11 or 12, and they were saying, what can they do to improve their chances while they're still in school to get scholarships?
Right. So thank you. When you're in your final year, which is grade 12 in India specifically, you can apply for the program. We have two deadlines, which is the early action and the regular deadline. So the scholarship would have the similar deadline as well. So the early action ends on November 15 and the regular deadline ends on February 1st. So these would be the specific deadlines for the scholarship application alongside, because as I mentioned, you don't have to apply separately. So this is how you need to plan. At my school, we do not have any provision or a separate scholarship if you apply earlier than these. But I mean, Anjali can pitch in case they have such opportunities at her college.
Thank you, Pallavi. So the application process, of course, opens on 1st of August. You can make an application either on Common App or directly to Wesleyan. But the scholarships that are the international scholarships, international, entrance scholarships, are given automatically based on the predictive scores that a student submits, the predictive scores of grade 12 that you will submit. But for the premier scholarships, like the Fulbright CEO or Global Leaders Scholarship, you will have to make a separate application. Now, if you are in grade 12, continue doing whatever you are, because you're very close to the application process. So do not divert your attention to co-curricular right now, because your academic scores will become important. But if you're in grade 10 or 11, I would advise to participate in almost every co-curricular activity that you can, either inside or outside of school, because no co-curricular activity is better than the other. Often students ask me, I'm not good in sports. Do you think I would not get scholarship? We are looking at, when Pallavi mentioned a holistic profile, we just want to know as to why did you enter into that co-curricular activity? What did you gain out of it? And just to give another piece of advice here, we like listening to your challenges. So do not make it like an all positive story. So do talk about your challenges also. And that is all covered. So besides your academic, which becomes your primary admission requirement, we look at your co-curricular profile also. So just go ahead and participate in everything that you don't have to be necessarily standing on the stage or winning awards. As long as you're participating, I think it's a good way of improving your co-curricular profile. Thank you, Itihas.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anjali and Pallavi, for answering that question. The next question I'll direct to Unnati. This is a question we get a lot. I'm a US passport holder, but my whole education was in India. So will I be considered an international student or a domestic student in the US? And how might that change the scholarship landscape for those people, US citizens who grew up abroad?
Well, thank you, Itihas, for that question. We have done a lot of collaborative sessions with American Citizen Services, which is a part of the consulate regarding this question. So it depends on the college. That we had done a survey a few years ago where half the colleges do consider American citizens living abroad as domestic students, versus half of them actually were considering you as an international student. What I have noticed most is usually for financial purposes, as Anjali had mentioned, you are applicable for FAFSA, which is a federal financial aid. There are three types of FAFSA that you can obtain. One is the work study, one is the normal scholarship, and one is a loan, a very low interest federal financial loan. Even though you're not living there, you are applicable for that. The second benefit that sometimes you may get at state university or public university is that after the second year of education, many states will accept you to give the in-state tuition fee, which is slightly lower than
what's the out-of-state region. So it is not a matter of citizenship, but a matter of residency that you're establishing where you're going and being a part of that state public university. So these are the two benefits. But for purposes of admission, they understand contextual application. So they know that you have done high school in India or wherever you have done high school. They will see how you have performed with the resources that were available to you, and how did you, how did you excel academically or extracurricular wise compared to the context in which you grew up. So they're not going to compare you and give you a disadvantage to someone who studied in the US as a domestic student. So that has been my experience. But of course, different policies for different. Thank you.
Thank you, Unnati. And obviously, similar to that, we're getting some questions about Indian students on F1 visa, and they're asking, what if we spend 1 or 2 years in the US? Will we then qualify for FAFSA? So I just want to answer that. So if your citizenship is still non-American, you will not qualify for federal aid, no matter how much time you spend there. Then another interesting question we got is, there's a student in bachelor's. She's saying that she doesn't have too much research experience. So when she applies for master's, what can she expect, and how can she get research assistantships? And this is a very common question, because you see in Indian universities, there's not much research at the bachelor's level. So they're quite anxious about applying for master's or even PhD, because they've never done research before and they think it's a significant disadvantage to them. So how is that analyzed in the US when a bachelor's student with no research experience applies for master's? I'll open it to any panelist who wants to take a shot.
Sure, Itihas, I would love to take that. Well, first of all, no experience for masters is absolutely fine. I do not think most of our programs would require any work experience, except for a few MBA programs. If the student is looking for the MBA in the US, some institutions would require, I would say most institutions would require an MBA, a work experience for the MBA. Depends, 2 years, 4 years. It really depends on which school you're applying to. In my personal view, I think it's best for the students to have some work experience before going for the MBA program specifically, even if the institution does not require that. That's only for the MBA, but most masters would not require any work experience. PhDs, yes, that would require some journals, some publications, some kind of research work that they would have done already. I would pass the PhD topic to Unnati, because I think she's the best person to answer that. But for masters, I can confirm that at DePaul, definitely we do not require any work experience. But
right.
There is,
so just to interrupt you for a second, I'm sorry. The question was about research experience. Work experience, yes, you're right. It's usually not required for most programs. Research experience was the question. That most Indian universities, there's no research in the curriculum at the bachelor's level.
yes.
So they fear when they apply for masters how they can compensate for that.
Sure. So there are, so if you're asking me if I have got the question correct, to study masters, whether they require the research experience in their bachelor's, well, at DePaul, we do not really prefer or look for that as such. However, if they want to work as a research assistant, even for that, they do not kind of qualify the students based on their past experience, whether it is research oriented or not, because the kind of work that they're doing is not really a front ending. That's not a research work they're doing. They're only assisting the faculty or the person who is doing the research. So in a nutshell, at DePaul, we are definitely not looking at any of the research work in specific. However, any work is always preferred. And I was about to say that, sometimes in some programs, it is always helpful, because when we talk about the profiling or the holistic profile that we just spoke about, that's where these experiences really help us to understand the student profile a little bit better. So in case they have some kind of research work that they have done, or any kind of related work that they've done in the field of the study that they're going to do in future, that definitely lands them up with better, scholarship, even if their academic grades are not so great. So that's where it helps for sure, but not required as such.
If I may just add to this, often it helps that you do not go directly for a PhD, because I do understand Indian universities do not offer you research, neither at the undergrad level or the master's level. There are certain programs at master's degree level which are course-based. They are not research-based. So it is advisable that you take admission into those course-based programs first, and then transfer to maybe a research-based program. That would help you, because it gives you the prerequisite required for you to become a research student in future. And if you're looking at PhD, often students who've done their master's degree in India also go back to do a second master's degree just to qualify in that particular, to become a research student or a PhD student later. So there's no harm in doing another master's degree, maybe in a different field altogether, if you want to do research in the US or anywhere in North America.
Right. Thank you again. This was very useful. Unnati, my next question is to you. So getting a lot of questions about medicine, studying medicine in the US at all levels. What are the different exams, and what are the different scholarship options, and the cost structure, of course?
Attempt to ask the country.
Was the question related to medicine?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, she's having some audio problems. So the question, perhaps Anjali, you can tackle it, is about studying medicine and the different scholarships involved. So first of all, they have to go through pre-med. So can you talk about pre-med
Yes,
to begin with?
Yeah. So in entire North America, medicine, law, and some of the other courses, pharmacy, etc., they're all master's degree programs. Okay, there are grad programs. The reason for that is that unlike India, where after grade 12 you can take the NEET exam and get into a medical school if you qualify. There are certain programs which require a different level of passion to be in that. So what universities do is that they expose you in the undergrad level to some of the courses that you would be studying, etc. So you get into a pre-med program, and then there are two fields that are open to you. You could either become a research student in medicine. You don't necessarily have to be a doctor holding a scalpel. You could be doctor of research in the field of medicine. Or you could then take the medical school exam and become a practicing doctor in the US. It is a long process. I was reading some of the comments here where somebody said it's a disadvantage. No, it is not, because the degree that you get is a grad degree. You graduate as an MD. It's a postgrad degree, but it will take about 8 to 10 years for you to be a practicing doctor in the US. What universities offer is a pre-med program, as it call it. Wesleyan College also has a pre-med program. We have what are called pre-professional programs. So we offer, a pre-med program, a pre-law program, dentistry, pharmacy, applied health sciences, etc. As a high schooler, you can get admission into the program. The same admission requirements. In fact, at Wesleyan, you don't even have to be a science student to get into the pre-med program. Even if you are a humanities or a commerce student, in your first year, you will do certain qualifying courses for you to get into medical school later. So you're studying psychology, pick up certain pre-med courses. And then along with that, you will be studying certain courses like human anatomy and a whole lot of other programs, which will qualify you to get into the medical school later, or at least take the exam later. So you have to have an undergrad degree of 4 years for you to qualify to get into medical school. Medical school is another 4 years from there. And that's how it is. It is very competitive. It's not easy to get into a medical school. It is very competitive. But yes, those are the pathways to get into becoming a practicing doctor in the US or any other applied health sciences that you want to get into.
Right. Thank you, Anjali. This was a wonderful explanation of the timeline of medicine in the US. Moving on, we're getting questions about international kids getting student bank loans in the US. So I can answer simply. You will likely not be able to do that if you are an incoming freshman who has no record in the US. But yes, if you have lived there for several years and have built credit history, then you may be eligible for some loans of certain types. But that is not a viable strategy when you're just making the transition to the US, expecting student loans from American banks domestically. Moving on, a lot of questions about what it means when it says a PhD program is fully funded. Does it cover the living costs? Do you get a stipend? Is it just the fees? So perhaps Pallavi, you want to that?
Sure, it is. In my knowledge, the PhD programs are fully funded in terms of their work that they do. However, the students get the stipend to cover their housing as well. So that's how most of the research scholars actually come to the US to study, but there can be some exceptions. I can't speak for all, but this is how the housing is covered by the students, because they get the stipend from the college when they do the research with one of the faculties or the department. Unnati, do you want to add something here? Or
no, I think Pallavi, you covered it. You covered it well. So I think again, I don't know what my headphones are doing, but great. So yes, I think that's very true. And again, funding in PhD degrees at that time, I think I left off. I was not able to add for PhD applications. Yes, research is important. You do have to have some background. And like Anjali and Pallavi both nicely covered, you should build it before applying for PhD. And once you do get a PhD application, it's a very difficult application, but it's usually fully funded, though more funding than others. So if you are in certain departments, you are more likely to get like easily fully funded, whereas other departments more competitive, but they'll try to cover your tuition and give you a stipend for the living wage. In fact, health insurance, which is also compulsory in the US, which all of you should consider, it's very expensive. It's partially covered in the PhD, partially or fully covered for PhD applicants by the college.
Right. Thanks, Unnati. Another question we have is about on-campus employment. Students are asking, how long do I have to work part-time? When can I work full-time? And can I pay my expenses through campus employment? Anjali, could you?
Yeah, so, I wouldn't want you to, I mean, at an undergrad level, I wouldn't want you to depend on the on-campus jobs that you do to fund your education. It wouldn't happen. I mean, your funding could go as low as $7 per hour, depending on where you're working, and can go up to as about $15. $20 is something that you get probably when you're in your fourth year or maybe at master's degree programs that you get if you're working as a research assistant and all. It will not cover your tuition fee, definitely. It will cover some of your personal and social expenses, but that's where it is. So, but it adds value to your profile, because don't not do those internships or those on-campus and off-campus jobs just because they're paying less, because they give you work experience in the American culture. So that is very important for your future employability, but it will not cover your other expenses. For that, scholarships and loans and of course sponsorships is very important.
Absolutely, yeah, and I can speak to that as a former undergrad student in the US myself. It is on-campus employment, yes, will add to the experience. It will help you become an adult, teach you some real-world skills, and bring some discipline. But when it comes to the money, it is barely enough for your miscellaneous expenses month to month, but it can never cover fees. Uh, when it comes to part-time versus full-time, you can work full-time during vacations. So you may be able to afford a little more in terms of living costs, but once again, it won't be enough for your fees. You're also allowed to work, do internships in the vacations and in anything related to what you're studying, which is known as CPT, where you may make a little more money. But once again, those are experiences designed to give you some real world practical experience, not designed for you to work your way to funding your college.
I'll just
Moving
like to
on.
add, sorry, Itihas, I'll just like to
Yes.
add here, and this is specifically for undergrad and maybe for master's student too, because they know how to do their time management. Please, even if 20 hours per week is offered and you're a scholarship student, do not use those entire 20 hours and drop your grades. Your grades drop, your scholarships will drop. So do not forget the primary purpose for which you're going to the US, and that is to get good quality education. And work will come through, but don't waste your time too much in doing more work and not attending classes.
Absolutely. And obviously, you have to adhere to the rules as well. Don't work off campus or you without authorization, or you may be in serious jeopardy. Thank you once again to all the panelists. Moving on, there are a number of questions about the application timeline as well. If there's the right time to apply for scholarships, or some priority deadlines. So, Pallavi, perhaps you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, I think in general, what we tell the students to really prepare well in advance, because there are multiple factors that actually play in, because one of the common factors that we have all seen in the post-pandemic years is the visa situation and the appointment availability. And it really becomes very difficult for the institutions to evaluate on a short timeline, because we all have our own way or process or a particular time or stipulated time which we want to spend on an application. So one of the requests that I would have to all the students listening to this conversation is to plan ahead. I won't mind, especially for the grad students, the best idea is to plan at least 1 year in advance, because you may have to prepare your profile. You may have to put together your work experience that you have had. You would want to give some tests like GMAT or GRE, which requires preparation. So on the undergrad side, it is SATs. In general, we see, Anjali can reconfirm this, but for the undergrads, we start at somewhere in grade 10 or 11 to really start shortlisting, and start the process of thinking where we want to go. But the actual application process or thinking starts somewhere when they're in the grade 12, early years of grade 12. As Anjali mentioned, the application starts on August 1st. So that's the beginning of the applications for most of the US institutions. So that's when you will be making the application to any school, whether it is undergrad or grad. Like for us at DePaul, for grads, we are rolling, so we can take application anytime. However, for undergrads, it's mostly August 1st when the schools open the application. So how you need to work is actually backwards, is what I feel. So knowing the institutions where you want to apply, knowing the fee that you may have to pay, because some of the institutions would want the application fee as well. So how much fee would you want to pay is one of the aspects that every international student actually thinks about. Then what all documents would you require? For undergrads, it's far more simpler, I believe, because we are working with the the high schools, which are more easier to deal with. But for grads, we've seen that the students who have completed their studies way back do not have their documents in line with what the universities require. So as simple as transcripts, it takes time for the students to apply for the transcripts, and the universities in India they have their own time to issue that transcript to the students as well. It's more modernized now. I think it's more simpler nowadays. However, I would still want the student to factor in that time to prepare the documentations and, of course, to be ready with the applications. And one of the tips that I can give based on my experience, especially for the grad applicants, is please apply when you're ready with the documents, because most of the times we hear that the students feel that it is taking a lot of time for the universities to give decision. But actually, if you look at it in detail, then you would find that the documents are mostly incomplete at that time of application, and that really delays the process. So one of the things that you can do to fasten up the process of decision is to apply when you have all the documents handy with you. So that's how I would suggest the students to work towards it. As I mentioned, the deadlines can vary. Specifically on the grad side, the undergrads mostly have the early application deadline by November 15. The regular one goes by February 1st. However, the grads can vary. Like, we take applications till 15th of June every year for fall. I'm just giving you one example, although we have rolling because we have 4 entry terms at DePaul University, but it's mostly 1.5 to 2 months before the start of the program, you would end the application, or that would be the deadline in most cases. Some of the universities are even more particular about this. They would end the applications, or the deadlines would be somewhere in February or March. So I think it depends on the college or the universities that you're applying to, but it is an important question to really ask what is the deadline, because none of us really accept the applications past the deadline.
And also adding a very important point to that, to Pallavi's very comprehensive answer, is that do consider, students, that you have to apply for your visa. So you can't just get into a college and just arrive in the US, you will be sent back. So you have to go in with a student visa, which you should keep at least 2 months in hand, if not more, to be able to get that after you get an acceptance from a US university.
If I could,
Right.
yeah, sorry.
Yes, please.
If I could just add to that, I mean, in terms of specific dates, if I could say that, 1st of August, Common App will open. Some of them will give you an application waiver. Some will charge you application. For undergrad program, you require primarily just 2 documents to make the application. Rest, of course, you'll have to fill in when you're making the application. You require your grade 10 final mark sheet, whichever curriculum you're studying in, whether a state board, national curriculum, IB, or Cambridge. You require predictive scores of grade 12. Common App, I think you don't have to upload your documentation. You just have to make the application. It is to the specific institution that you'll be applying to, will then connect with you for your documents. These 2 documents are mandatory for an undergrad. And as Pallavi said, yes, even at Wesleyan, February 1st is the last day to apply for the additional scholarships. So do keep that in mind. I would just advise, make an application. If you have these documentation, make the application before the Christmas break. In fact, before 1st of December, you should do it, unless, of course, it is stipulated by the specific institution that you're applying to, that the deadline for early action or early admission is this. So make sure that you make an application as soon as you can, if you have at least these 2 documents. That's how it is.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you, Anjali. That reminds me of my own personal experience. I applied to the college I attended. The deadline was New Year's, January 1st, and I applied at 11:58 p.m., 2 minutes before the deadline. So students got to that, but it all ended well. I ended up attending that college. But yeah, that's a good deadline.
Correct
Apply
me
before
if
Christmas, New Year's.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the US consulate recently announced that people can apply for their the visa, student visa F1, 1 year in advance of attending the institution. I think that was a recent.
Yes, they definitely, yeah, Anjali, you're right. They can apply now 365 days before.
So, I mean, this is specifically for undergrad students. Why wouldn't you want to make an application fast, get an offer letter, get the scholarship, and then, apply for visa? You can get into your final exams, my dear, with far less stress on you. But of course, that obviously means that you cannot ignore the fact that you still need to get the grades which require you to keep that scholarship and admission. So why not do it at the earliest?
Absolutely. Especially like you said, before going into your final exams, you may have it all in your hand, a conditional admission and a scholarship. So we really are running out of time. So I'll just ask one last question. So you see this a lot in terms of bachelor students, especially Anjali. How much should they ask for when they're asking for need-aware financial aid? They often wonder, if I ask too much, does that reduce my chances of admission? Or if I ask for need-based financial aid, does that reduce my chances of admission?
See, I'll tell you what, be realistic. I mean, as admission officers, Pallavi and I, we see so many applications around the world. We are able to calculate, because we are going to ask you for your financial documents also. So we are able to calculate based on the bank statements that you're going to be submitting, or whatever financial documents that you're going to be submitting. If I may use the term, do not look greedy. If it's need based, show your need. Leave some for somebody else too. That is there, because often I have seen when my committee sits and discusses this, they do tend to get a little upset about the fact that the student can afford the education but is asking for a lot. So calculate it and ask for a little more than what you would want, but make it more realistic application. Pallavi?
No, absolutely. I mean, with the need-based scholarships, this is the thumb rule that we all go by. I particularly haven't experienced this, but I know that some of the need-aware schools are looking at something called the gap of what you need and what you meet. That is called as meeting full financial need. That is a detailed term any which ways, but just in a nutshell, if you are requesting for, let's say, $50,000 out of the $70,000, but your financial statement actually talks about much more, then definitely there can be questions, as Anjali rightly mentioned. But if you are, your financial status talks about some $20,000 and your need is, your college fee is $70,000, then the university would be more than happy to look at covering the gap for sure. That's the rule in my knowledge, although we don't offer the need-based scholarships, but I know that in US institutions, this is a general thumb rule. As Anjali mentioned, be realistic. That's very, very important. And of course, it's a detailed topic, but there is a CSS profile that is created. So you definitely have to declare everything that you have, why you need, and there's nothing that can be just put down without any base. So it is important to note that even if you're requesting for a need-based scholarship, you have to declare your financial profile to the institution. So I think that's how the institutions decide on what they can offer. It is a transparent process that way.
Great. I think we've pretty much covered everything in all the different categories of financing and education in the US. Once again, thank you so much to all our panelists. Unfortunately, obviously, we couldn't answer all your questions. We saw hundreds of questions. So please contact your nearest office. We have 8 offices in India, and I'm sure Pallavi and Anjali would also love to hear incoming queries specific to their universities. and their information was also on the screen. A number of students asked for these slides. Like I said, it is recorded on YouTube, so you can go and revisit them. Interestingly, there are a number of American citizens also who are saying that they studied in India throughout their lives. So for them, the short answer is yes, you do qualify for federal aid, but there are other nuances depending on the state and the university that you'll have to clarify with particular universities. But you qualify for a few more opportunities as citizens. So we'll end on that note. Thank you everyone again. Hopefully this was useful, and this is all part of the App Camp series that's on our screen. So we do have another financial session coming up where we'll talk about the details of the forms, CSS profile and FAFSA. That is on August 17th, and how to go about filling those. And as well as other things like writing the perfect college essay and standing out with a good resume and so on. Right, so that's it from us tonight. Thank you once again to all the panelists and the participants. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Bye. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank